Welcome to Grab Your Popcorn. I'm your host, Brian Kroc, and along with me is David Kalisa.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we are here to bring you one of the greatest action films of all time, one of our favorite movies.
Yes, I can agree with that.
Although I can honestly say you and I have never watched this movie together.
No, and that's a crying shame because it honestly would probably make for some very good times that I could never tell anybody about.
But this is the movie that puts a balding man versus the future Severus Snape together in a battle of wits and bullets. And of course, we are talking about not Die Easy, but Die Hard. Die Hard, released in 1988, was an action film that obviously broke the mold when it came to action movies, right?
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
So before Die Hard actually happened, it was like the Superman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and the men who go up against all odds and come out nearly unscathed and unhurt because they're men.
Well, that, and you also have to think about it was just a lot of sci-fi action flick. It was never just an ordinary man against all odds.
Yes. Well, I mean, if you put Arnold Schwarzenegger in a movie, you kind of have to put him against something that is as equally crazy because he's a giant dude. So
I mean, that's true. That's why he faced James Earl Jones in the first Conan, but that's neither here nor there. We're talking about Die Hard right now.
We are talking about Die Hard. But before we actually get into our review of the movie, we are going to run through the trailer first because that's what we do in a movie. You do the trailer, the feature, and then the credits.
You damn
so
Skippy. Here's
what we're doing. We got the trailer all rigged up. We can watch it. You can hear it. Here we go. This preview has been approved for all audiences, including Dan.
It's Christmas Eve in L.A.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie. The trailer just said it.
Not just a Christmas movie. It's the Christmas movie. I don't care what anyone else says. That is the bottom line.
This is the truth. This is the fact of the matter is I don't care what Bruce Willis and the director have said. It is a Christmas movie and should therefore be enjoyed on Christmas.
Very true. Very true.
Or Christmas Eve for that matter.
Or both.
But let's get into it.
California.
Is Daddy coming home soon?
No, he's not.
See what Santa and Mommy can do, okay?
A New York cop, John McClane, has come to see his wife.
I missed you.
Instead, he's going to have to save her.
Sit down.
I like this.
Within this skyscraper high above the city, 12 terrorists have declared war.
They're about to be taught a lesson in the real.
I want to know what the instrument is playing in the background. The little.
There is plenty
I am interested in the $640 million in your vault.
as they are ruthless.
And I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me. Okay.
Okay.
No!
We do it the hard way.
Now, the last thing McClane wants
Think, damn it, think.
is to be a hero,
Where's Holly? Hey, Tucker! Where?
but he doesn't have a choice.
I like how we're just going to skip around randomly from shirt, no shirt, bloody shirt, white shirt.
Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
They've already killed one hostage.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Report me, come down here and arrest me.
He's inside? Who is he? Who are you then? You have lost troublesome for a security guard.
Sorry, wrong guess, huh? Would you like to go for double jeopardy?
Oh, explosive hockey pucks, my favorite.
Against us, Mr. Cowboy.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother.
You just destroyed a building.
You just destroyed a building.
I'm in charge of this situation. I got some bad news for you. From up here that look like you're
Oh,
in charge
man.
of Jack. He is alone, he is tired, and he hasn't seen dipping squad
Oh,
from
hey,
anybody
what was
else.
that? I think I just caught a nip slip in the preview.
Hey, pal, how you feeling?
All things being equal, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
Makes you wonder why he chose Philadelphia rather than his hometown of New York.
Can drive somebody that crazy.
I'm assuming he doesn't like
Easy
Philadelphia.
guy to like,
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
and a hard man to kill. Bruce Willis,
Die Hard.
Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew?
Coming soon to a theater near you in 1988. I love it.
Fun fact, in case you didn't know, they are coming up on the 30th anniversary of the movie, and they are re-releasing it in theaters in
Awesome.
a couple months.
Well, then we're going to have to go.
Oh, I think that would be the perfect time for us to finally see it together.
So, yes. The thing that I do enjoy about this trailer, though, is the fact that it's they give you the plot.
Oh, they give you everything.
And they give you, a bunch of his one-liners, but they're still really good, even if you watch the trailer and we're like, okay, I know what to expect here. But I do know that when they were trying to promote the film, they were trying more to have the emphasis on the action and less on Bruce Willis, because he wasn't a mainline actor at the time.
Yes, very true. I believe a lot of his stardom was only because of his TV series Moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd.
Yeah,
so,
which I never really watched, actually, as a kid. So.
The only thing that
I was early 80s for me. I mean, so.
Yeah, I wasn't born, but my parents gave me a pretty good movie knowledge and library growing up, and the only thing that I ever saw of it, I thought Moonlighting was just a movie, because the pilot for the show was actually an hour and a half long, and they released it on VHS. So one of the VHS that was in our house was just called Moonlighting.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was it. I did not know that it was related to the show at the time. I just thought that one movie was like their movie. And, as I got older, it turned out I was flat wrong.
Yes. So, the great thing also about this trailer is the fact that it honestly doesn't really showcase a lot of what the movie kind of boils down to.
No.
So it shows the action, it shows the comedy, but it doesn't show a lot of the other stuff that is thrown in there that really makes the movie brilliant.
Right.
Had they just hit these notes during the movie itself, it would have been an okay action flick. But it was all the other stuff that they put underneath it that was actually what made it great. So, speaking of that.
And now, our feature presentation.
So, yes, Die Hard, 1988, and it starts out with him arriving at the airport, right?
Yes, yeah, it opens up him at the airport. Technically, it starts up with him on the plane. Nervously or kind of awkwardly talking to somebody.
Which leads to the one of the major plot setups of the entire movie. The dude next to him telling it, I've been traveling for 20 years. Here's what you do to stop, that type of stuff. You take off your shoes and socks, and you bunch up your toes into little fists.
Yep, you make fists with your toes.
Yes.
Is what he suggests. And so then the plane lands, and McClane gets up to get his big old teddy bear that he has got for his wife out.
Yes,
and naturally the gentleman notices his I believe
side piece,
cop issued side piece sticking out, which also shows you how timed the movie is. That he
could fly with a gun on him.
He could fly with a gun on him, and he told the gentleman was nervous. He goes, "Don't worry, I'm a cop. I've been doing this a long time." Kind of throwing it back at his face, and so then you go through the airport scene, some standard '80s romance going on with the couple finding each other, and then you come to the greatest sidekick ever in the movie, Argyle.
Who really doesn't do a massive amount in the storyline.
No.
But he keeps popping up, and he does contribute in the end, which is really good.
He actually, which I'll point out later on, he actually contributes a very big piece at the end of it, and, talking about it a little bit after I watched it to myself, as McClane would do. And, no, he definitely contributes a big piece, which, like I said, I'll note later on. But he also contributes a lot of comedic relief throughout the movie through his commentary, both with McClane and also just on his own.
Yes,
when he gets trapped,
there is a lot of comedy in the movie.
Oh yes, yeah,
and
it is down.
But it is delivered in a very straightforward way that makes it fun to watch and not just beat you over the head funny.
Yeah, it's not a comedic action movie.
It's an action movie that has elements of comedy thrown in there to alleviate some of the tension of the scene itself.
Right. It's not like a Michael Bay film or anything.
Yeah. No. So let's go over the main characters though. We've already established Bruce Willis as John McClane.
Yes.
Right?
Some will
John
say
McClane,
that he's no longer Bruce Willis. He is John McClane.
He is a New York cop flying out to the West Coast to catch some rays and hook up with his wife one more time. Oh, yes, and there's children involved. There's 2 kids that we never really care about
Until the later movies.
Until the reporter shows up to put them on screen.
So you have him, of course, and you have
Yes.
your main protagonist, the legendary and unfortunately late Alan Rickman
As Hans Gruber.
as Hans Gruber.
Now, here's the thing that I have loved about this is that I don't know if you know this or not, but the original script, as it was written, which was just a test script, it was just so the writer could get in like the right headspace to do it, was actually written from Hans's perspective.
So
The guy wrote a story entirely from Hans as the protagonist of the film. So it's like, here's what Hans would have believed to make him like this, and so on and so forth. And he wrote it purely so he could get in the headspace of this villain, so he could then make a counter to him in the form of John McClane.
No, I had no idea that even
it's pretty
existed.
brilliant, right? I mean,
to write a whole movie, just essentially get an idea of what you want for the actual movie you want to write. I mean, you have directors nowadays that are just going to throw crap together just so it can get on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes, and here's when I brought this up that we were doing this movie in the office. One of the guys here actually said, he's like, "You don't have Die Hard without Hans Gruber."
Oh no,
He goes, that movie would not be as great if you just had it with a generic villain
no,
of a bad guy who is trying to just steal money or whatever.
right, 100% agree.
So Hans Gruber is the entire driving force behind the movie, and it's his plan, it's his crew. He is executing it in this very particular way,
Yep.
and he is calm, he is collected, he is in control the entire time, and John is purely reactionary to everything that is going on around him. He does not have a plan whatsoever, and he's just having to...
He's having to more adapt to the situation, whereas Hans is purely prepared for the situation.
Yes, but his cop instincts are still there. Gather information,
Yep.
take out people if I can, save the hostages.
Right. And not just like when he can, and more importantly, he does it a little bit at a time. He does not try to do an all-in-one sort of thing as you would see in other typical 90s action flicks. He doesn't Rambo
this
it.
movie. Yeah, this movie, if it had been Rambo or Schwarzenegger, like basically would have like charged into the main room when the dude showed up, killed all of them, possibly some civilians as well, and then would have like walked out the front door carrying his wife and smoking a cigar after 10 minutes.
And that's not just because he just saved her.
Yes. I'm just saying. It's like that's just what would have happened. So in the weirdly enough, I actually didn't know how many henchmen there were until we just watched the trailer there again. It's like, this guy and 12 terrorists.
Yeah.
Like, which I want to point out is like one of the most diverse groups of henchmen ever.
Now that you point that out, it's
normally
very
it's
true.
like, oh, okay, they're all of this one nationality, or maybe there's like one or two in there. No. It's like there are Germans, there are French people, there are Russians, there's Theo, the hacker / vault cracker guy.
Yep.
There's Uli, played by Al Leong. Like, I mean, all of these different things out there, and then it's like Hans, like speaking German, English, and then an American accent for a brief moment.
Yes, and not only is it the most diverse terrorist group there is, they are also they also have the worst dress sense ever.
You have to commend Hans though on his diverse hiring practices.
I absolutely agree, but like I said, side point, their dress sense is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, it's like
you got a couple guys that have like button-up shirts tucked into some jeans,
freaking sweaters and crap. Like
right, you have
wearing.
another guy that's in just all sweat gear. Sweatshirt and sweatpants. Like,
and Theo's
what the hell
like,
are you supposed
Theo's
to be?
in like a sports jacket and like jeans and stuff, just cracking all the jokes though.
It almost makes you wonder if he just like hit up like a terrorist hotline, and it was like these were like the first available guys sort of thing, and like that's how they all met up, and that's why they're all sort of diverse.
Yeah, that I just thought it was amazing. The other funny thing though is actually about the movie that I thought was interesting was the weapons and stuff that they used. Now, I know a lot of people probably don't really pay attention to the types of guns that are used in there.
No, but
I was like, but basically everybody had MP5s except for the main henchman guy whose name is currently eluding Carl.
Carl, yes.
He all of a sudden pulls out a bullpup and like assembles it. Like, this is my special gun that I use for killing people who have killed my brothers.
Just for those special occasions, nothing else.
Nothing else. Like, and that brings me to another thing that I truly love about the movie is that the entire film is basically John and Hans like and their battle against each other of Hans's plan and John just like his reacting to it and his instincts and that kind of stuff that got brought up. And then the first person that he kills though is Carl's brother,
which sets a totally different tone between him and the terrorist group because now there's a vendetta.
Yeah, and so like this entire time after that, it's Carl like trying to get vengeance.
Yep.
And yet John like not really paying attention to Carl other than the fact that he's like, oh, he's another terrorist.
Right.
He's like, I got to go after Hans. It's like, but Carl's the one who's legit just trying to kill him like crazy.
It's kind of like Die Hard with a Vengeance inside Die Hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you truly think about it, Die Hard with a Vengeance was made because of a brother being killed.
Yep.
So we had With a Vengeance inside Die Hard before we knew With a Vengeance was even going to be made.
Yes, yes. All right, so let's get back to the actual plot of the movie because
Yes.
we go through those. Oh, and we didn't really talk about Holly McClane or Gennaro as she goes throughout the movie.
Right. So he gets to Nakatomi Tower and he is trying to locate where his wife would be. And
The Christmas party.
The Christmas party, which he has to use a computer to find out where the only people in the building are at for some reason.
Yeah. Well, the only people left in the building are up at the Christmas party, so you couldn't possibly be heading there.
So
Yeah.
so he subtly finds out that his wife is not using the married name. She goes back to her maiden name,
Gennaro.
And then that sort of sets the tone for, why he's out there visiting, is to kind of make amends for how things were left.
Yes.
When she had to move out there for her career.
Yes.
And that also plays a big effect into things when Holly becomes the leader of her employees when her boss dies.
Yeah, she's like second in command.
She's second in command, but she learns very quick that she has to keep her identity secret.
Yeah.
Because Hans finds out John's full name, and she does not want to be any part of that.
Yes, and
Yeah, I mean,
which
honestly, who would?
leads to a couple of different subplots that go throughout the story. So after this is all established and the characters have all met and stuff, and they've got the boss who is Yoshinobu Takagi, played by James Shigeta, and they go through this bit, and then it sets up Hans coming in. They come in through the basement and stuff, and then like go up. They kill the guard, go up to the top, and then start causing all sorts of havoc. Is here after we've established John goes and kills Carl's brother, gets a machine gun, and gets the next important piece of the plot. He gets the radio.
Yes.
Which is how he has all of these conversations with Hans, as well as the outside cops and everything else.
It's basically their open communique.
Yes,
three-way,
which is like a great aspect of the film.
Yeah,
and it's not utilized like in anything really now because it like that technology is kind of old school, compared to what we have now.
Right, and it's also a weird thing of protagonists and antagonists aren't really supposed to meet or interact with each other until only midway or almost to the end of the film.
Yes.
Whereas in this film, they are openly communicating through pretty much all of it as soon as they infiltrate the building, and that's what kind of builds up the camaraderie and the what's the word I'm looking for?
The competition,
whatever you want to call it, between him and Hans.
Yes. The later on though, after he gets the machine gun and like all this other action happens. He keeps trying to get the cops to show up or somebody to show up to do something, which then introduces us eventually to the next character on the list, which is Sergeant Al Powell. I don't know why they decided to go with Al Powell. Like, that's just... who would name their kid that? That just is not...
Well, I'm sure Al's usually short for something.
True.
You know, so it might be Alan Powell or
yes,
Alfred.
Who apparently has a Twinkie obsession, even though he says they're for his pregnant wife.
Yeah, I mean, if I were getting that many Twinkies, that's probably what I would say.
But then again, I mean, like, if he had all those Twinkies and they were for his wife, then how would he know exactly the ingredients that were in them when he brings that up later on?
Well, because for the health of his child, he has to know what he's giving her to make sure that it's all good.
I know for a fact that this movie, like, bumped up the sales of Twinkies immediately after. Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
Guaranteed.
Just like how probably Zombieland did when that came out.
Yeah.
In between, Twinkies and Snowballs.
Or Reese's with E.T.
Very true. Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces, yeah, that's what I meant.
So anyway.
So yes, and these two then form an unlikely friendship, not an unlikely friendship, I mean, sort of a working friendship at first.
Right.
But as they go along, a lot of the character development for John, it comes from his interactions with Al. It's where him talking about, like, first, like, what he does without actually saying what he does or where he's from.
Right, because he doesn't want to give away his actual career to the terrorists who are still openly listening.
In on the, yeah.
Yep.
And then on top of that, it's later on when he's talking to him after the glass incident and stuff, and he's in the bathroom, and he's basically just like, look, I didn't support my wife. I didn't do all of these things. I never got a chance to actually, like, tell her how I really felt and blah, blah, blah. And basically he's like, I have no idea if I'm going to come out of this alive. Like, but Al, if I don't, tell my wife these things.
Yep.
And then Al's just like, look, dude, it's like, you're going to tell yourself, blah, blah, blah. Everything's great. And then Al even goes into the next thing, which is him explaining about, like, how come he's not like a beat cop anymore, really. And like, and all of that because he shot a kid who was 13 and had a toy gun, which then through my modern sensibilities was like, and he's still a cop?
Which also shows you how dated the movie is because, it was, cop's word was a little bit more trusted and, things just were not as evolved, as it were.
Yes.
Now as they were then.
So this all leads to a bunch of great exposition between these guys, and all the while the conversations between John and Hans are going, which then leads to the greatest line and the catchphrase of the entire Die Hard series when he's talking to him about what kind of cowboy he is, and he responds with,
"Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker."
And thus a legend was born with John McClane, and we still have that line no matter what in every single Die Hard movie.
That's very true. And of course, after that, just like Twinkie sales rose, Roy Rogers was then again popular for a little bit.
Yep. Yes. So this all of this goes along. The characters interact more, and more things happen, more fights, more stuff, especially when you have the great meeting between Hans and John.
For the first time.
For the first time, when John is out there checking on the roof, and Hans is also checking on the roof, and he jumps down right at the feet of John McClane and immediately goes into
the dirty busted
"Oh my God, you're one of them, aren't you? Please don't kill me."
Puts on this whole little mouse show to divert what he really is and everything. Gets a name off this little billboard that was up there, which the roof kind of looks under construction. I'm curious as to like what the directory board was up there for. Kind of thinking about it.
Yeah,
don't know why.
It's not really that big of a deal, though.
It's not a big deal.
It is not a plot breaking point. It's just a thing of like, oh, okay.
No, it's just one of the things where when you watch something enough times, you start wondering
you notice
about the little
things. Yeah,
kind of like a relationship. So you have this epic face-off, this first-time meeting between the villain and the hero, and of course these, two big stars that are breaking out in this movie for the first time, and just open up their whole career for them, and they both collectively keep their cool, and they're you can subtly tell that they're just playing at each other. It's like a spy versus spy sort of thing.
Yeah.
And, they banter back and forth about this and that. And, John asks him about, what he's shot, what he's done, gives him the pistol,
Yes.
turns his back to walk away, to lead him somewhere.
And
in
Hans
turn,
reveals himself.
Hans reveals himself.
And John then reveals that he knew it was him all along.
Yep, he got him to
So-
play right into it.
Here's one of the things, and we can discuss cinematography a little bit later, but one of the greatest things about that entire scene is that it starts out completely normal of just the two interacting, and then it does what is known as a Dutch tilt or a Dutch angle. Slightly tilt the camera a bit,
Yep.
go from a slightly upward angle on the characters, and what it does is it changes your perspective of what's going on to give you that sense of something doesn't feel right here. And trust me, once you know that this exists, you will start seeing it in movies because they use it a lot to showcase something isn't right on screen.
Right, and the reason why they do this, if you think about it, want like a different visual as for what it can relate to. If you think about like a boxer or just like a highly trained dog, when they hear or see something that they don't understand or isn't quite right, they tilt their head, trying to figure out what exactly
Yes.
is off about that.
Yes.
And so that's exactly what the movie is doing. Is they're using the camera as the dog's head to be like, hey, what's going on here?
Side note, do you know what movie has the most Dutch angles?
I can only imagine it's a Tarantino film.
No.
Oh,
it is
I'm
not.
surprised.
It is a much worse film.
Worse,
Much,
how?
much. It is one of the worst films ever made. And I'm not joking. This is like legit one of the worst films ever made.
Geely
Battlefield Earth.
with John Travolta.
Yep. And Barry Pepper.
Who the hell is Barry Pepper?
He was the sniper in Saving Private Ryan.
That's probably the only thing I would have ever known him. I did not
Yep.
know he was in Battlefield Earth. I watched it the one time.
Yep. he was the sniper from Saving Private Ryan, and then they're just like, hey, let's stick him in Battlefield Earth. Okay. Why not?
It's gonna suck anyway, so I might as well try and get something good in there.
Yes. So, I thought that was pretty funny. But so yes, whenever you see in film, you see the Dutch angle or the Dutch tilt, it is trying to imply that something isn't right on screen. But here was the best part about using that in Die Hard is the fact that you didn't know who knew what and why it was off. Was it John thinking there was something off about Hans, or was it Hans just being like, okay, he's finally up close, and so he's like, there's the thing off about him, and maybe John hasn't picked it up yet, and it's just like, oh my God, you don't know what's going to happen. But I did actually read an interview because apparently that has been one of the biggest plot points that people have complained about, is the fact that John knew that Hans was in front of him at that time.
Why would they complain about it though?
Because there's no explanation for why he knew that it was Hans. They're just like, oh, he just had those instincts, and so people actually were complaining that was a major plot hole in it. So the writer or the director, I don't remember who actually gave the interview, but they explained it later on, saying that there is a deleted scene of Hans and all the terrorists synchronizing their watches. And when they synchronize all of their watches, they all have the same watch. And so later on, when he's talking to Hans, he sees the watch after killing all of these other terrorists and noticing their watches.
Okay.
And so there was a subline through the entire movie about watches, because his wife is given a watch, and that comes into play later on.
Right.
And then the watches throughout the movie with the terrorists. So that was the entire thing on the setup for that, is that he sees the watch that Hans has, like he asks him the time or something like
Right.
that, sees what it is, and then that's what triggers him to think, okay, this guy's actually one of the terrorists, and it's probably Hans.
It makes you wonder why in post-production, because you got to think that there's probably only maybe 5-6 minutes of film total to add those two scenes in there.
Yeah.
Why not leave them in there? And that way that all sort of ties together. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if they did, that might have made that Dutch tilt a little less legendary
Yes.
than what it was. So
Yes.
it's, you can go either way with it, and I can see both sides.
Yeah.
But the way it is now, it's a legendary film, and if you just got to deal with that 6 minutes of it being in there and get over it.
The something else that I think is truly funny, and we can talk about this right now, actually, is the fact that the first cop that John meets, Al, he's cool with. The captain shows up, or the deputy chief or whatever it is shows up, and he's just a complete tool. But that actor is quite well known for doing that, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Right.
But he shows up, and he's just like, I don't know who this dude is. We can't trust him, blah, blah, blah. And Al's just like, I think he's a cop. I think we can trust him. Everything's cool. Like, let's see what he says. And then the FBI shows up, and the deputy director is basically just like, kissing butt major, trying to like get favor with the FBI, which just cracked me up even more.
You had this hard ass to one person turn into a total kiss ass to somebody else.
Didn't somebody actually say, it's like, Al actually says, you want a breath mint? It's like when the FBI show up. So yeah, like the deputy chief's just like, oh my God, the FBI is here. Oh. So yeah, but then the FBI show up, and the FBI are like the most gung ho, like
gung ho, dickish FBI agents ever.
They're just like, we're gonna show up with helicopters and shoot everybody on the roof. We might lose some people, but we're fine with that. It's like, man, I'm sure the FBI did not like this movie one bit.
No, probably not. And then 2 sub points to the FBI. First of all, why do they have to fly low and in between the skyline of downtown to get to the roof? Why wouldn't you just fly above? I guess they wanted the element of surprise, I guess.
Yeah, they're like, we don't want them to see that it's a gunship, And I'm just like, well, first off, it's not a gunship. It's a transport helicopter with machine guns on it. Right. They're not even mounted machine guns.
No,
because the one FBI agent actually just pulls out the gun and just starts shooting at John on the roof.
So, and then second point, if you jump to the fourth film,
yes,
which takes place in D.C., and obviously McClane is aged quite a bit. He has to deal with the feds a lot with the plot going on, and a very little subtle Easter egg in there that you would only know for a true diehard fan. When he is being transported with Justin Long,
yes,
to a different area, the 2 agents driving him are named
Johnson and Johnson,
especially Johnson. And just hear McClane go, "You've got to be kidding me!" It's like that was really great, because then that was like the director of that movie's nod to the first and original one.
Yes,
and it's maybe 20 seconds worth of screen time for it, and if you don't catch it, you miss it. And you have to have the first one pretty fresh in your brain to understand the reference.
Yes.
And I think that's great.
Agents Johnson and Johnson. So yeah, these guys show up and they're basically like, yeah, we're going to kill everybody, and as well as some of the hostages, but we're fine with that. That's okay. And then they say like 20 to 25% or something.
Yeah, he's like, I could live with that. Like, well,
like,
yeah, no,
really,
crap.
Dickheads. Like, serious? We're gonna kill 25% of the 40 hostages that are there. Yeah. Like, we're fine. That's okay.
Black Lives Matter wasn't around back then.
So yes, it's this all like keeps going along, and everybody's doing that. Like, John is up there trying to rescue people. The FBI is trying to murder everyone. And then it finally leads to the great confrontation after Hans finds out that Holly is McClane's wife.
Yes. Takes her separate hostage.
Takes her hostage separately and tries to escape.
Right.
By sending Theo downstairs to get the car ready.
Right, because they're going to go out in body bags in the ambulance, I can only assume,
yes,
to get through the police. So it's a double cross, because you have the FBI double crossing the terrorists double crossing the FBI, and then double crossing the public into thinking that they're dead.
Yes.
So the old triple double, as I like to call it.
Yes.
And,
which is kind of an interesting, and he explains it later on. He's like, if you escape with $650 million, they're going to catch you. It's like they will hunt you down. He goes, but if they think you're dead, they can't. It's like they won't hunt you down.
Exactly.
Like, so, it was a smart plan on his part.
And then going off that point, you of course find out after all of this rigmarole and what's going on, yes, the terrorists are there for money.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's even established pretty early on with when he's talking to Takagi,
right?
Because he's like, what kind of terrorist are you? And Hans is like, why do you think we're terrorists, or what makes you think we're terrorists?
Right.
Like, which is great because everything he did before that was establishing that he was a terrorist. Like, with all of those people.
Which is what he wanted, because that's why the FBI came along to handle a terrorist situation.
Yes.
And then he knew that the FBI would shut down the building to get the safe opened up.
Yes.
To get the $640 million in negotiable bearer bonds.
Yes.
Which, for note's sake, if translated by today's inflation, is actually $1.36 billion.
Which led me to think that every time John killed somebody, Hans was doing the math on how much money he was actually going to get.
Yes.
Because, percentage, he's like, well, there are now fewer people I have to pay. This
That's
is
true.
great.
Yep.
But yeah, I was trying to figure out how much they actually paid for when it comes to their equipment. Because, like I said, they all had MP5s. What's his name had a bullpup. And, all of that. They had a rocket launcher. They had C4. They had 12 henchmen. And then a giant frickin' drill to get through everything.
Giant drill. And then they also had all the detonators, all the wiring.
Yeah.
For the explosives on the roof.
And then
everyone had like 10 explosive pucks, which are flashbangs. But
yeah, the flashbang pucks.
Yeah, I just thought they were hockey pucks when I was younger, and I was asked for them at Christmas, and my parents never got them for me. I'd just get super pissed. And then I'd go to watch a hockey game, and I wonder how the hell it's not exploding when it hits the net or something.
I was trying to figure out how those things slid so well. I wanted to find like a schematic of those types of flashbangs to see what they...
I wouldn't doubt if they probably have some sort of ball bearings on the bottom.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Because that kind of technology and that sort of innovation or like design would definitely be probable for that timeline and everything like that. So.
Yes. So he captures Holly. He takes her. He's doing his thing, and that's where he and his final henchman, because in between there in the roof fight scene, John dispatches Carl by hanging him on a chain. And then shoves him across the wall and stuff, right?
Which has some of my all-time favorite lines in the movie. He goes, "I'm gonna fucking kill you. I'm gonna cook you, and I'm gonna fucking eat you." When he's just punching him in the face, dragging him up the stairs.
Yeah,
and I'm just laughing my butt off because I'm just like, who says that? Who does that? But I guess when you've gone through that long of a night with no shoes, you're covered in glass. I'm sure your ears
covered
are
in dirt and all sorts of bad stuff.
And it's just like, I'm sure at that point I'm probably going to want to kill, cook, and eat one of the terrorists myself as well.
Yes. So after dispatching Carl, he finally goes and jumping off of the roof and all sorts of bad stuff.
Yes.
Like he's hurt, he's limping, he's got glass in his feet, and the last henchman is right there. The guy who was the security guard.
Yep, down in the lobby, kind of
I'm
keeping
forgetting who his name or what his name in the movie actually is. I don't remember. I think it was like Doug or something like that.
Doug.
But
no wonder he died.
So it's like the last two, Holly, and then all of a sudden, like they're trying to figure out a way to escape, and you just hear John go, "Hans!"
And then you just see him emerge in the smoky,
limping with
smoky
the emergency lights behind him.
And if you pay close attention, you see his dusty, bloody trail from his foot dragging down the little hallway ramp area, and you're just like, man, that's a rough dude.
It's so great of a scene.
Yes.
Like just seeing him standing there in the light and stuff.
And part of the cinematography and another great shot of the movie is when that happens, Holly is this is the first time she sees her husband after they've been separated.
She's happy.
She's happy, but also she sees the state of him, like what he's gone through, and you just hear her subtly, very just quietly say, "Jesus."
Yes.
And it's just like all he has been through, because all she sees are just like less henchmen around, and henchmen in their life, coming back more pissed off.
Yes.
And she's just like, what the hell has he been doing? And then she finally sees the aftermath, like, okay, now I get it.
And then the line that she says earlier, it's like, when they find out, like somebody comes in and he's just, Carl's comes in and he starts bashing the bar or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, he's still alive. And she's like, what? She's like, only John could piss somebody off that much.
So true.
So it was something along. I don't remember what the actual line was, but it was something like that.
So you have this crescendo scene. It is a 2-to-1 standoff. He throws his submachine gun
which
down.
has no bullets in it anyway.
Which has no bullets.
And he has 2 shots left in his pistol.
Which is great because that sets up another little sort of die-hard tradition in later movies.
He tapes the gun to his back.
That way they can't see it. unexpected. Looks like he surrenders. Does a classic misdirection of just starting a full-on laugh.
Yeah.
With the terrorists.
Which goes on a really long time, and Holly's just like, why is everyone laughing?
Yes. They're like, I'm still here. I'm still a hostage. I don't get it. What is wrong with you men? And all of a sudden, John's instincts kick on. He sees Hans lower his arm to shoot, and then he yells out Holly's name for her to dodge, pulls out the gun, shoots Hans in the chest.
And then Doug in the head.
Yeah, poor Doug. Don't really care about him. He's toast.
Which is great, because the first thing he did was shoot the guard in the head.
That's true.
And so he then dies in the same way.
Wrong. Carl and Theo are the ones that walk through the door and shoot that guard. Doug is not the killer of that guard that he takes over for.
Oh, that's right. Yep, I'm wrong.
So, Doug's just there. He thinks he's getting his however many billions of dollars because he's one of the last few. And he's toast, and Hans falls back out of the window, which has been broken by the bullet that has gone through them.
Yes.
Good point.
And he still has a hold of Holly, though.
He still has a hold of Holly, and the thing that is causing him or allowing him to keep hold of her is a Rolex watch that the cokehead Ellis gave her as a company gift.
Slight flashback. Ellis, of course, who dies in a great way because everybody wants him to die, even though John is trying to save his life. But when he goes, Hans, Bobby,
what is that?
Who says that? You just want to shoot him.
And it makes you wonder how he's a salesman or like just like a representative of this, what has to be a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah, it's like, and he's working with these Japanese people who would really not appreciate like his style.
Well, yeah, especially when, Takagi and Holly or John walk into the office and he's having to brush the coke off.
Doing coke in Holly's office.
This was the closest office.
Despite the fact that he has a private bathroom himself. It's like, come on, dude.
All these open sub points.
I had a call. And John's just like, you missed some.
So, the Rolex that was given to her by Cokehead Ellis is what is causing this one last struggle between the three characters. John comes over. He's trying to get his wife free, and it's all in just epic 80s action slow-mo.
Yes.
And you're just like, who's going to fall? What's going to happen? John's completely out of bullets. You know that for a fact. Comes over. Hans is bringing his sidearm up for one last kill. Don't know who he's going to get.
Probably going to go for John, though.
Probably. John.
And then John
unsnips
the watch. And then you get the greatest reaction shot of Alan Rickman. Hans.
You get the epic fall, the most epic fall in Hollywood history.
And the reason why it is so great, and it's like you can see the determination in his eyes. He's like, I'm going to kill you.
Yes.
Like, I can still finish this. I can still get this done. I'm going to shoot John. It's like, and he's pulling the gun up. And then you see the look of sheer terror as he drops. And the reason why that look is so genuine is because they dropped the actor, Alan Rickman, before they said they would. They're like, all right, Alan, we're going to drop you on 3. 1.
Click. And what better way to do that? I mean, there's a lot of directors in Hollywood that are notorious for doing such little things to their actors to get a more legitimate response from them.
But the look of terror on his face is real because he's just like, oh crap, I'm actually falling.
Right before the cue that he was given and everything like that. So.
But then it leads to one of the funny like Hollywood moments. It's the slow fall of the stuntman who is not falling at free fall speeds.
Right.
Just like, and he's just like, ah. And then you get the deputy chief who's just like, oh God, I hope that's not a hostage.
Right, because I'm sure that everyone's going to be that calm watching somebody fall out of the building.
Like, yeah,
no matter who it is, nobody, especially law enforcement, is just going to be like, oh,
looks up, just like, oh, I hope that's not a hostage. All right, FBI guys, where are we gonna?
You might as well just said, well, get the mop.
Let's get some more FBI guys in here. I got some more butts to kiss, and.
Got any more of those breath mints?
More breath mints, please. Al, thank you, Sergeant.
So Hans is finally expired.
Yes.
He is street pizza.
Yeah, he does not last very long.
No. So the crescendo is done. The hostages are saved. Everyone's coming out of the building. And you have this great dramatic just sort of human connection and relief in this last scene of them walking out of the building. McClane and Al make eye contact without ever having seen each other at all in their lives, and just immediately know who each other are, and are just completely relieved to finally have met and survived the whole incident.
It's a great moment where they, not knowing what each other looks like,
Yes.
and they're just like, "You're the guy.
Yes.
You're my friend." And even to the point where he comes back in for a brief cameo in Die Hard 2.
Yes.
Because they're still in contact with each other.
Very true.
Which is really awesome.
It is awesome. So,
But then this leads to the final character development of the entire movie, and it doesn't go to McClane, doesn't go to Holly, doesn't go to them getting back together or any of that crap. Like, okay, yeah, there's the two conclusions to the movie that do not go to John. There's Holly punching the reporter,
yes.
which is a great thing, and also a setup for Die Hard 2.
Right.
And then 2, Al Powell, sergeant who has never used his gun since accidentally shooting a kid, is forced to save John's life because Carl was not dead, and he shows up again.
In a very dramatic, just bust out of the body bag fashion.
Yeah. He's just like, oh.
Now, what I want to understand, I don't know if you noticed this, he has his bullpup.
Yeah, it's like they just left it on him.
They just, this was his, avenge my brother bullpup. He has to be buried with this. So we're going to put this next to his body bag. How the hell he came to get it on his person or why it was next to him?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows, but he did it.
So he comes out. He is all bloodied and torn up because McClane just beat the living hell out of him. And he is just ready to kill. And McClane does what every husband would do.
Tries to protect Holly.
Protects his wife, hands down. And then all of a sudden, you just hear this loud revolver go off. He gets 3 in the chest. And he's got this craziest look ever in his eye. He's just like, I wasn't expecting to be shot, even though there's 17 million police officers outside.
All armed. I had a bullpup.
and then Al, it does a focus on the barrel. Then it pans out, and you see Al standing behind. He shoots him one more time to end his life.
Yeah.
And it is the full circle of him finally being able to use his service pistol again.
Yeah.
And
that's a great moment for him.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't go to John. It goes to Al. It's like as a slight redemption for him. Just like I used this weapon before in a bad way. It's like, but now I've used this weapon to save somebody or multiple people's lives.
True. And now we got to backtrack about 5 minutes into the film when after they embrace and are cool with each other. I apologize. I'm going to refrain my statement. Right after he kills Carl, you hear a crash. It is a limo coming out of the parking lot.
Yes.
Al is on point again, wondering what's going on. McClane goes, nope, this one's with me. It's his driver, Argyle, and whatnot, coming out to finally give him a ride. And what you find out, though, a little bit before that whole scene happened, is so there's actually 2 henchmen that were not killed. So up in the hallway, right before killing Doug and Hans, he knocks that one dude out that was carrying the bearer bonds. That dude's not dead. And then down in the basement, Argyle is responsible of knocking Theo out. He did not kill him.
Yes, he just punched him after hitting him with the car.
So the officers will be able to take 2 of the terrorists into custody and, get information and actually make some arrests.
There's the next Die Hard movie, though. Theo's Revenge.
Yeah, I don't know about that. He didn't seem to be too all upset with everything that was going on.
Hey.
He was just kind of along for the ride, per se.
That would have been funny, though. I liked Theo. He was like the comedy on the bad guy's side.
Yes.
It's like even when all this bad stuff is happening, he's just, and the quarterback is toast.
He is what South Park would label the token black guy.
Yes.
Because their black character is named Token.
Yes. So yeah, but that basically concludes all of Die Hard, and then of course they play the Christmas music on the way out, which I believe is once again Let It Snow.
Yes.
Because also there's a bunch of paper falling from the building.
Yes,
and it looks kind of like giant paper snow.
A little bit of snow, so ends with classical Christmas music, starts off with more modern Christmas music. You got Christmas in the Hollies by Run DMC.
Yeah.
Excellent way to open the film, in my opinion, because John, being the traditional white cop that he is,
Yes.
you know, do you have any Christmas music? Argyle's like, this is Christmas music. And it's like, that also sets a good tone for their relationship in the film. So now everyone's
The
dead.
end.
Everyone's happy. Or, you know, McClane's are going off in
Some
the
people
limo.
are happy. Some people are dead. Deputy Chief's looking for more butts to kiss.
Credits roll.
Credits roll, which then brings us to our actual credits of the movie. And we got some doozies here. And probably a lot of future films that we are going to review
Oh, most definitely.
on the show. So I'll give you a little backstory on this entire movie. And that is, it's actually based on a Roderick Thorpe novel from 1979 called Nothing Lasts Forever.
Okay.
It is a sequel to the 1966 The Detective, starring Frank Sinatra.
Okay.
So, which was adapted into a 1968 film starring Frank Sinatra. And if you didn't know, though, since this was a Fox production, and The Detective was a Fox production, they legally had to offer the role of John McClane to Frank Sinatra.
Which,
By contract, they had to do it, which would have been a much different film,
very much
especially
so.
since Sinatra was pretty old at 88. In 88, even still. So they had to offer it to him, but they actually didn't offer, because they knew he was going to reject it.
Right.
But they had offered it to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Naturally.
Who-
you know, by 88, he had done probably, 4 or 5 films by then?
Predator, Commando, Conan, like a couple of others.
Okay.
So yeah, he's an established action star at this point.
Okay.
But he turned it down because he wanted it to be a direct sequel to Commando. Which, if you didn't know, I think he still actually has like one of the records for most kills in a movie, and it's because of Commando
I mean, that...
by a single person, mind you.
Right.
But so they offered it to Schwarzenegger. They offered it to Sylvester Stallone, Harrison Ford, Don Johnson, Richard Gere for some reason, Clint Eastwood, and Burt Reynolds. And none of them wanted to do it.
And that's a lot of star power passing up on
Yes.
a big movie.
So the Fox executive and the director was like, look, this guy, Bruce Willis, he's on this TV show. It's like, he's been in one movie, okay, that's been pretty good. It was like, I want to put him as the thing. They're like, but he's not an action star. And they're like, crap, nobody else is picking up this role. Go ahead and do it. And they actually then paid him $5 million to do it, which is what a top-notch actor would have been paid at that time for that kind of a movie, which was a huge thing for Willis to do. Which, you know, was then really cool, but then also led them to promote the movie more for its action than for the star.
Right.
But then that led to the establishment of Bruce Willis as an action star, and then the future Die Hard movies, as well as a bunch of other movies that he's done since then.
Yeah.
And for some weird reason, Bruce Willis got to a certain point where after he shaved his head, he stopped aging. So I don't know what happened, but that happened. So we have based on this book, it was offered to all these different people. It was directed by John McTiernan, who directed. All right, here's the list, and I'm going to give you all of these. Not all of his movies, but all of these good ones. Predator.
Right.
Last Action Hero, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and The 13th Warrior.
Antonio Banderas.
Yes. So all good ones for him. It was written by Stephen E. D'Souza, who wrote this Commando, Running Man, Hudson Hawk, and Judge Dredd, some of my favorites. And then executive producer was Charles Gordon and producer Lawrence Gordon. Charles Gordon was responsible for Waterworld, The Rocketeer, Field of Dreams, and October Sky. And Lawrence Gordon was responsible for, and this is a great list, The Warriors, 48 Hours, another 48 Hours after that,
Not guilty.
Brewster's Millions, Predators 1 and 2 and which is coming out, as in The Predator,
Oh yeah,
which is
the new
coming
one
out
this
soon.
year.
Event Horizon,
Oh Jesus.
Boogie Nights, Mystery Men, Hellboy, and I know one of your favorites, The Watchmen.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely on there.
This dude has been making quality action movies
Forever.
Lawrence Gordon, you're like my new favorite person. So I dig it, man.
I'm gonna have to keep an eye on his upcoming films when that, because
Yes.
seems to be whatever he gets his hands into, it's gonna have a little bit of good
his next
production
one is
value.
The Predator, so
Right.
that's the next one coming out. But he's still doing a lot of work. Charles Gordon is not really doing anything much nowadays.
And the fact that he's a part of it along with Shane Black directing it,
Yeah.
that's going to be just an outstanding action
Yes.
film in and of itself. Because Shane Black, for those of you who don't know, played Hawkins in the original Predator, the very
Yeah.
first character to die by the Predator, and he's also done a few of the Marvel films and some of the Lethal Weapon films. So he knows his action, he knows what's what, and I am very much looking forward to the Predator coming out.
Yes. So let's get into some of the principal players here. We've got Bruce Willis as John McClane. If you don't know what Bruce Willis has done since then, you're missing out. Alan Rickman, who of course has gone on to play numerous brilliant characters
Yes.
throughout the rest of his career. Alas, he passed on due to cancer not too long ago. But he will be remembered for generations, like for many of his roles, but probably most well known for playing Severus Snape in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, just for the pure fact of that reaches such a wide range of ages and
Yes.
and audiences. It'll be hard for people not to know characters from the movie.
And even
major
J.K.
roles and
Rowling
everything.
basically said he is Severus.
Yep.
He's like, he is Professor Snape. That's the end of it.
Always and forever.
Yes, always and forever. Then we had, Alexander Godunov as Carl, Bonnie Bedelia as Holly Gennaro McClane.
Which she didn't do too much after the Die Hard series.
she did not do. Even Alexander didn't do a whole lot of stuff afterwards.
No.
But Reginald Vell Johnson, who of course became Carl Winslow, father in Family Matters, and which ran for many, many years.
Yes.
But he was just funny in that show.
Yeah,
Period.
and I don't think his Hollywood career really did much after Family
and
Matters. He probably
hasn't
had
really
small parts and stuff like that, but
the small part that I really remembered him from, because I remembered him from Die Hard, but the one that always popped up into my head was Crocodile Dundee. Because he was the limo driver, and he pulls the antenna off the back, like the boomerang thing, and he throws it down the alley and hits the dude. And he's just like, "Are you sure you're not Aborigine?" He's like, "No, man."
it's been so long since I've watched that.
He's like, "No, I'm from Harlem." Or something. He says something like that, like, "Yeah, I'm from Harlem." But after, let's see, Paul Gleason. Here we go, deputy chief of police, also well known as like the assistant principal from The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, that's probably his most iconic role.
So those are his roles. The authority figure who is also kind of a goof and everyone kind of makes fun of. And he's accepted this and he appreciates it.
Yeah, but he nails them. He does it very well. He's very believable in his characters and everything like that. And that's really what we look for.
He really is a quality actor because his acting doesn't leave anything to be desired, and he is in his part. He's a solid actor.
And for those who don't remember, just because it's kind of a brushed under the rug movie, it's not talked about too much anymore, but he was also one of Van Wilder's teachers in the very first film. And
yes, he was.
He was kind of dickish in that too.
Didn't he show up in the sequel as well?
I don't remember. I'd have to rewatch The Resetage. I wouldn't doubt it, though. But I know that those were, unfortunately, his last appearances in films, because then he passed on shortly after that.
Yes. Let's see. We have Devereaux White as Argyle, who didn't really do much after that.
No.
But he was funny.
He was funny, and he definitely added good camaraderie to the film, and as you said, some of the comedic relief for the villain side.
And then we have the next great 80s villain character actor, William Atherton, who plays Richard Thornburg, the reporter that Holly eventually punches out and then meets up with later on in Die Hard 2.
Yes.
So William Atherton, though, is just this dude who they're like, all right, we need like a schwarmy kind of guy who has like a tiny amount of authority or power, and he wields it like a giant frickin' hammer to get whatever he wants. All right, let's go William Atherton.
Yeah. Basically, his ego is bigger than anything in the film.
The best one, though, is him being in Ghostbusters, though, where he's just like, he causes every major problem in that entire movie. Like okay. And that's like, that's what he does. That's his character. His character is there just to be a troll to like other characters, and it's great.
And followed up by Bill Murray's insult, this man has no dick.
Yes. We have Clarence Gilliard as Theo, who is actually in one of my favorite movies, Top Gun, and as Sundown, who is like the only black guy in that movie too.
Question.
Yes.
In your research that I'm sure that you did on his character, is he going to reprise his role or make an appearance in the sequel
of Top Gun?
Yes.
I have no idea, but he did actually show up in a YouTube short called Top Gun 2 Back to Driving School.
Dear Lord.
And it's hilarious. He walks in and like everybody else, because like the driving instructor is just like, all right, roll call. It's like Maverick, and it's some dude doing like a Tom Cruise impersonation.
Right.
It's like, and he does a line from the movie. It's like, and then he's like, all right, and Iceman, is that right? Like, he's like, and then he does a impersonation of Val Kilmer. Like for that, and then all of a sudden this black dude walks up and he's wearing like the jacket and the sunglasses, and he's like, and you are, it's like, and you're such and such, and he goes, you're here for blah blah blah, and he goes, nah, it's like, I've got the need for speed. It's like, and then like walks up and like high fives the two guys, and then every line he says, he high fives them again. But he does so like one handed in like the greatest way. So like he's sitting in the middle, and then like Maverick's sitting like up in front a little bit, and then Iceman is sitting like next to him to his side. But it's like he doesn't just like like high five. He just like full arm swings, just like. It's like full arm swings, both of them, just like, and just happens to hit their hands. It's just hilarious. I was like, man, if you're reprising like a small role, like just for a YouTube short, that is brilliant.
Yes. And that's what is so awesome about actors that really get into their characters and care about each role that they do, no matter how small it is. Because it shows you that they're passionate about their career and what they're doing.
Well, I mean, and look at even like William Zabka from Karate Kid.
Right.
William Zabka reprises his role for a music video, and then like kind of gets a little bit of traction going with that, and then like a few years later, he's on a freaking TV show about his character from Karate Kid.
Right.
That's pretty darn good.
And there's a big phrase that goes a long way. In Hollywood and also in life, there are no small roles, only small actors.
Yeah.
Because they're just, you can pick out just about any movie, that's, big Hollywood production. That's actual top breeder of money. And I'm sure somewhere in there you can find a supporting actor of some sort that just completely steals a scene or does something along those lines. And that was all they had in the whole film, but it's one of the most memorable moments of the film.
Yes, absolutely. So then just to close out like the other major players, you had Hart Bochner as Harry Ellis, or Bachner, I'm not entirely sure. And then James Shigeta as Joseph Yoshinobu Takagi.
Yes.
So those were like the major players, but I wanted to go a little bit into one other player that nobody really talks about. And that is Al Leong.
Al Leong.
Al Leong is the Asian henchman.
It doesn't very sound much Asian, but I'll go with it.
Well, Leong it is definitely an Asian name, and
it almost sounds like Leon, which can make you believe it's French.
Yes,
but you have to look at the spelling of it.
Leong. So here, like he is still doing movies too, which is just amazing. But he shows up basically anywhere that you need an Asian henchman. This guy shows up, and he is so easy to spot because He is bald. He has kind of longish hair, like, so he's got like bald on top, but then longish hair like down the back and the sides.
Right.
And he's got like a goatee that is pretty awesome. And usually he's doing something on screen that draws attention to himself. So like in Big Trouble in Little China, he's walking down there and he's like frickin' the front dude wielding this hatchet, you know, or a butcher's knife or something, like looking all frickin' cool. It's like in other ones he shows up and he's got like the, you know, double cross bandoliers across his chest of bullets. It's like, I mean, he shows up in let's see, Big Trouble in Little China. He was in Lethal Weapon 4, or he was in Lethal Weapon the first one actually, and then showed up in Lethal Weapon 4.
Lethal Weapon 1. I bet you he's the guy that electrocutes Riggs near the end of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
If I were to bet, it's the only Asian henchman I remember out of that group.
I mean, like he was in like Die Hard, They Live, Black Rain, Dark Angel, Action Jackson, T.J. Hooker. He was on a bunch of episodes there. It's like Riptide, The Fall Guide, My Science Project, and so on and so forth. But he is probably most well known for one role in particular, and that is he was Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And recently in an interview, they asked him, like, hey, they're making another Bill and Ted, and they're going to do more time travel stuff. Is it possible that you could reprise your role as Genghis Khan? And he's just like, yeah, I'd totally be up for that.
Which doesn't surprise me in the least.
It's like, yeah, let's go back. Let's get Genghis Khan. Because he's one of the coolest characters, obviously, in that entire movie. Because he barely says anything.
Right. And then during their presentation, he's not saying anything. He's just doing like a martial arts.
It's like, and then when he's in the mall, you know, he puts on like football helmet and pads. Like, and then gets a skateboard. Yeah.
And starts decapitating mannequins.
But when he picks up the bat and he's just like, yes. Like, I love it. Like, this is one of these dudes that once you spot him, you will see him in like a bunch of other movies and TV shows where he shows up.
He is labeled that guy.
He is that Asian henchman, which is also great because then they recruited him for a movie specifically for this called Awesome Asian Bad Guys. And
Wow.
Al Leong was one of the principal players of that show or that movie.
Sometimes it makes you wonder how the hell they come up with names like this.
Yes.
And where the hell all the originality is.
So there you go. That is Die Hard 1988, starring Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. Once again, one of our favorite movies that I know of.
Yes.
And we will definitely be going to watch it when they release it for the 30th anniversary. It'll be great.
It'll be amazing, to say the least.
Yes. So,
because I expect every audience member to have seen it and to have the same amount of excitement that I do. And if you are not okay with quoting the movie or things going on while you're watching it, you know, coming from the audience, you are going to have a bad time while myself and my friends are there, because I promise you, hands down, that is what's going to happen.
Yes.
And it's going to be fun. And if you don't like fun, then don't show up.
yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm pretty sure that covers just about everything we wanted to. There's, you know, so much to talk about in the film. You know, something of that stature.
I mean, we could honestly keep talking about this movie for a good while just because. I mean, when we've almost done the length of the movie itself right now in just the show. So, I mean, there's that. But yes, I had a good time doing this. Hopefully, you guys who are listening to this, this is actually David and I's first show on Grab Your Popcorn. I want to thank Blake for getting this stuff set up before, but Blake just got too busy to do the show, and so he handed it off to us, and so we're taking it over from now and going to have a grand old time in the future.
Yes, I am truly excited to be a part of this. It's something that I just came up with off a whim, and glad I reached out to, and I had a excellent time here today, and look forward to doing many, many more of these.
Yes, so we're going to be doing a lot of classic films, a lot of great movies from our past. We will be bringing on guests, and we will be just trying to have a good time while talking about some of the movies that we love. But Remember, folks, that you gotta go out there and you do have to support movies. So rent them, go and watch them in theaters. But if you do watch those movies, don't forget to grab your popcorn.